that INEC didn't get it right this time around.
Okay.
Like it was a whole lot of issues. If you look at a local government like Oredo, Ikubauha, they are in it's a metropolitan area, like in the city. In short, these two local governments are in Benin.
Yes.
Right. So that makes it easy for people, our listeners, to understand. These two local government houses Benin. So for you to understand that it is also within the city and there is access, right? It is not hard to reach area. But there is this particular area that even up to 11 o'clock, materials has not got into polling unit. I'm talking about the polling unit where the rack center, like Agbado Primary School or Agbado School, Model Primary School, those two racks, all of the local government all of the polling unit they were supposed to serve apparently commenced late. On the average time, like around 9:30, 10, averagely. So for you to understand that there are some places that didn't even start election until 11. Now this is capital. Now how does that now come into play? Like there is a need to interrogate all of these things. That's the point. Now let's talk about preparation regarding weather. I remember in our pre-election analysis, one of the highlights of our pre-election risk assessment is the fact that, and we predicted using the scientific tool for weather prediction, that there will be at least 2 hours non-stop rain in Edo State,
on
or 2 hours
day.
rain just on Saturday, even on Friday and on Saturday. We mentioned that, and there is need for, because we understood that our polling units are mostly made up of open spaces, not in a classroom, not in a shelter, not in a shed. And we said INEC needs to adequately prepare. Now, not even about the sensitive material of the process itself. It could even deter people from coming out because there is no shed for them to stay, like canopy and all, because our polling unit is in open spaces. Yet, on Saturday, it rained. There are places where, in short, about 8 local governments where rain affected the process. They had to pause. Some, they couldn't start election because of rain. Then there are some that election were going on and they were still voting. So that also is another reason why we're talking about the high number of rejected votes, because it's even higher than the last election. In 2020.
You suspect that perhaps because of the weather, a lot of people may have, had their ink blood or papers blood.
Sam, see, that is a perfect. It's just one of the suspicion, right? Because even on a normal day with a good weather, of course, this is an act of God. Nobody can say no to it. We are not a rain catcher. INEC is not rain catcher. But the point I'm making is we could have possibly prepared better.
All right.
Because even on a normal day, you actually use ink to thumbprint. It smells around and leads to invalid vote or rejected vote. Not to talk about when it is drizzling, that it could even affect the texture, because the ballot is a paper.
Yes.
Yeah, so even from the rain, it could drench it, it could affect anything there. It could even turn.
Okay. Well, Mr. Femi, I'd like us to take a look at vote buying because that is one of the major irregularity that was reported across board. I know that I spoke to a couple of people in Edo State on Saturday, and they tried to say no. Well, other observers said they could see visibly that there was vote buying ongoing. Those who were meant to vote, meaning that key figures who were meant to vote, said no, there was no such thing as vote buying, even though we saw a couple of pictures there. To what extent do you think sold votes or transactionary votes played a part in this election? And not just for the major parties, for all parties across board. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear you now.
Yes. Okay, so I think in the aspect of vote buying, really, I'm someone that I'm a realist. While I understand that transactional process of voting or vote trading or inducement, whatever name we'll give to it, it's actually an issue that has to do with moral burden. Yes, there are legal implications to it. In short, just yesterday I was having a conversation with my colleague, and he pointed my attention to Section 112, that's 1112 of the Electoral Act, that talks about bribery, right? And all of those in the process. So there are legal implications to this. But I tried to critically look at the Electoral Act regarding this, defining what inducement bribery is. One of the things I just discovered is that it's the same way it is difficult to prove when a gift becomes a bribe.
Oh,
right? It's
okay.
the same way why it is always difficult to actually draw the thin line. That is the same thing with vote buying.
But in this case, we're seeing people who are saying, see, just vote for us, we would give you 5,000 naira. There are people who even bargained.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you. But I want us to actually really be demarcating or maybe putting a disaggregation into this. Now, I understand that I was just explaining the legal part of this conversation. But I think the difficulties in proving it is making it difficult to actually caution or to actually see that somebody has been prosecuted because of vote buying and the person is serving jail term. Because it takes the person that bought the vote to be a witness in the court to say, yes, you bought my vote. That is the only way I know. I'm not a learned colleague. I'm not a lawyer. But the point I'm making is it is difficult, except if you are caught in the act, except if there is a video documentary evidence or there is a video evidence to read. And it was captured to the point that you collected the money to go and vote. Or you voted and you collected the money, and there are audio implications to say, oh, I have voted for you, give me this money. How will you get that in Nigeria?
So we are simply chasing shadows, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that is why it is very difficult to actually talk about vote buying and to talk about consequences for that action. I'm just trying to say that it is a difficult thing to prove. But however, does it exist? Yes. Did that happen on Saturday? Yes. In short, there are places that, from our information that we got on the field, there are places where votes were sold over 10,000. Right? I was discussing with a colleague who monitored the process, a roving observer, and they said, I know of a place where votes were bought for 30,000.
30,000 naira.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. So the conversation is this. I think one of the major ways, which I think what we can do is to end this, to use what I call moral suasion. Because if we really and truly want to deal with vote buying, then we need to be very systematic, like the people that are buying vote. Because Sam, did this happen in the 3 elections, general elections? Yes. Did it happen in Bayelsa, Imo, and Kogi? Yes. Did it happen in the previous elections? As far as I've been hearing vote buying in an election, it is the same Edo election 2012.
Yeah.
Thereabout. That is when I started hearing vote buying in the elections. Now, so from 2012 to 2024, Sam, that is over a decade. And we're still talking about it, and we're still using the same method. I think we need to actually do better. In short, I'm even tasking the media. One of the major goals as a media person should be on election, the investigative process that could actually figure these things out, and we tackle it head on. Because vote buying will not leave our election if we're not really systematic or strategic.
I think I would like to, figure out you to be a little bit more realistic with how exactly do you think we can tackle this headlong? Because on election days, I have monitored elections, and I recall that on election days, we have caught people who sold their votes. In fact, I recall that for a very long time, we used to play back, a voice of somebody admitting to actually selling his votes and even bargaining. And I recall that there was a particular instance in which security operatives were there, but they could do very, very little. And even though we called them out, there wasn't much to say after. So, what exactly can we do within this Nigerian context to stop vote buying or mitigate it to the barest level?
I will just go directly. Number one is that every of the stakeholders we are involved in stopping this, right? Number one is that the government, incumbent, anybody in the power, we need to actually improve our economy. I think it's all start from that. And what do I mean by improving the economy, right? All of the socioeconomic data or figures should be favorable to the masses. How that will be done, I know that it looks like a tall order, but it is possible. So let me just leave it at that, right? That's number one, on the part of the government. On the part of the citizens, I think it is very important that community consensus are built through advocacies, through awareness, to talk about this issue and the implication of it in the process, especially a nascent democracy like Nigeria. That's number two. Number three in itself is that I think the security agencies need to rise up to the occasion. Now, not just about making noise around arrest and all, right? There are about two people that I saw was arrested for vote buying on Saturday. In short, if you remember, cast your mind back to Ekiti elections, there are people that were even arrested. Like arrested, there was a video evidence, they were transacting vote, even outside the polling unit. They caught them with the money, and the people were going there to collect their own portion of the money and all. But the question is, what has happened afterwards? Yes, there is possibility there are prosecutions and all, but who knows about it? So I think it also has to do with the aspect of what I call naming and shaming.
Naming and shaming.
Yes, I think we need to start making scapegoats out of such people so that it will be a deterrent for others. It will deter people to say, you remember those days, Sam, our mothers will be telling us, you see the way they did that man is going to jail. If you do what is wrong, that is what you end up, that is what will happen to you. You know, you'll be scared to say, oh, I don't want to do anything wrong. You see, when people does not see that there is consequence for an action, evil prevails. That's the point. So I think also, lastly, I'm also saying that really, one of the things both civil society organization and the media is not too much and is not too less to actually go on election to say my goal for this election, at least let me use the word undercover, if it is not too much of a word, right? It's just about, I think we popularly call that investigative process.
Yeah.
For civil society organizations, especially the media that are trained in that area, to actually see that is what they go out there to see, even if it is to have a recording of the process, follow through, even get to know where they are going to collect the money and all. It will help security, in short, it will help civil society organization like KDI to actually make a lot of, to actually have a lot of engagement when there are documentary evidence. I think that's the point I'm making. So all of us, we really need to come together to solve this problem, because if we're doing it the way we're doing it, it's really a fool that repeat the same thing and expect a different result.
All right, Mr. Femi, I know you have quite a number of points to make, but I'm also considering time for you too, because I know you have quite a lot to do this morning. But quickly, you had some bit of improvement in terms of turnout, for this particular election when you compare to the 2020 elections. You put voter turnout at 25.5%. I understand that the rain could have been a factor in putting this number at where it is, but it is still relatively low when you look at the number of people registered to vote. Despite all the efforts being put in place by civic society organizations and the media, what other incentive do you think is there to get voters to come out to vote?
On the lighter note, Sam, on the lighter note, I think vote by contributed to that number that you also saw.
You mean to improving that number?
Yes, because from all indices, right, plus or minus 2% margin of error, we predicted that the turnout will not be more than 24%. And I think by and large, it is still within the range with margin of error of plus or minus 2%. But I can tell you for a fact that a lot went down. That's the truth. A lot went down. So the figures you're seeing there, as declared by INEC, that is fine. But I think one of the things that matters regarding turnout is the fact that it is still the same fact that we need to do better as a country, as a people. Citizens are losing interest in democratic process. Citizens are losing interest in the fact that they are not seeing the dividend of what they're supposed to see or development as a result of democratic processes. See, periodic election is not a true reflection of true democracy. There are countries in autocracy that are also having periodic elections, even if it is a one-party system. So we shouldn't be happy that we are having uninterrupted democracy and elections are periodic and all of those. It goes beyond that. This is over 25 years of our democracy. We need to start talking about some dividend that has to do with social benefits. So that's the point I'm making, that the citizens are really, really tired. Because you interrogate people, oh, did you vote? He said, even if I vote, will my vote count? Oh, your vote count and all of those things, they would already know the winner. That's number one. Number two is that our democratic institutions are also suffering a lot of setbacks. No, in this Saturday elections, was there anything that happened in that election that has never happened before in our previous elections? No. It is still the same recurring decimal. And you say people will not be tired? So for me, that is what matters. Number two is the integrity of the voters register. When was the last time it was cleaned up? When was the last time it was cleaned up? Now, do you know how many young Nigerians are leaving this country and there is no diaspora voting? So on the register of voters in Edo State, how many Nigerians are out? How many Edo people on that register are outside Nigeria? These are questions we need to interrogate. And yet, another question again, another thought again, Sam, is the fact that if you look at the calculation for turnout, it is usually benchmarked with registered voter.
Yes.
But on a normal day, are we expecting the people that did not collect PVC to come and vote? So I think we also need to rethink the calculation for turnout, to be benchmarking it with PVC collection. But at the same time, there is also a question in the head of someone like me. Do we truly need that PVC?
Before voting.
Before voting. But anyway, that is not your question. Let me take it to another dimension. But I think the point I'm making is we need to also rethink the calculation. We need to talk about the integrity of the register. At the same time, we also need to talk about the process itself, how cumbersome it is. Sam, you queue to register as a voter. Your registration, you go online. If you are not tech savvy, you employ the service of a cyber cafe or a business center, as we call it in our Nigerian parlance, using our Nigerian language. Then you go to INEC office to complete the registration by doing your biometrics. That's the second stage. You go back to collect your PVC. That is the third stage. On the election day, you come out to queue for accreditation. That's the fourth stage. You collect ballot paper to go and print voting. That is the fifth stage. 5 stages because I want to vote. 5. And I think I cut it short because there are other processes. So I think the cumbersomeness of the process too also matters, because on the election day, and if you look at it, there are no, in terms of the architecture of the polling unit, is there places where voter can sit and relax? So if I'm supposed to be on the queue and beavers accredit on the average time of 3 minutes, if we have 300 voters that is coming out to vote and I'm the 300th person, right? If I'm supposed to vote, I will be standing on that queue without no place for me to sit, no place for me to seek shelter, and you think I'll be there till that time? That means 3 minutes multiplied by 300 people. That's 900 hours.
All right, Mr. Femi, November 5, that's the election day for the U.S. presidential elections, but already in some states, they have in-person voting, mail-in voting, even though some people have also said that there are some fraudulent practices connected to that sort of voting. And for those who do not know, mail-in voting, in-person voting is a situation in which before the due day, November 5, a lot of American citizens or residents who are eligible to vote are allowed to go into their respective ballot areas or polling units, as you may want to call it, to cast their ballots, so they don't have to bother about it on November 5, election day, especially if they are going to be busy, if they are going to be at work on that particular day. Now, Mr. Femi, do you think that, at what point do you think Nigeria will be ripe enough to take on something like that? And to adopt something like that without extreme fears that it would be subject to manipulation.
So I I completely understood the process of the U.S. and when Nigeria will get to that point, really, I think it's just horse and the willingness of the democratic institution involved. I think for me, the Electoral Act had actually given INEC powers to decide on the way to go. When this is the legal framework, also gave INEC the power to make guidelines guiding the elections. So if I think for me, process they are taking does not lead to disadvertising maybe some certain group and all of those, which I quite understand all of those dynamics. There is also the mail-in ballot. Yes. There is also you going to the polling unit. These are different aspects that people uses in voting. For instance, in general elections, the last general elections, INEC deployed close to 1.5 million ad hoc staff. Right? If you look at the Nigerian police, they also were on essential duty, NSCDC. You look at correctional services, correctional centers or services or personnel. You look at fire services, you look at road safety, even CBN were involved in elections. So if you look at all of these people, put them together, there's no way we won't have up to general elections, there's no way we won't have up to 4.5 million people that are essential duty that doesn't really have means to vote on the election day. Yet we're talking about low turnout. Anyway, I just want to put that on the table. So for me, I think it just depends on INEC. To be able to look at this framework very well. Is it possible for us to have it? And we then need to start talking about security of those materials and the process to immune it from irregularities. But, at the end of the day, election is about perception. I think I want to stress that point very well. At the end of the day, election is about the perception of the people. It's not even about what you do or what you do not do. But your actions and inactions contribute to that perception. So already INEC is one of the top 5 institutions, and the Nigerian police, the judiciary, in that order, are part of the top 5 institutions in Nigeria that are suffering negative perception, that are having trust deficiency in Nigeria. So do you believe that? Because it now anchors on the fact that, number one, I think INEC need to improve that trust. If INEC does not improve that trust, no matter what they do, everybody will be looking at them under the microscope, like under close eye. So I think that is where the problem lies. So even if INEC says they want to do it, do you think the trust deficit will allow people to agree? Especially the political class, even citizens will go against it. So I think for me, the very first step is that INEC should do everything possible to improve the way people see them.
All right. Just finally, and I like very straight and direct answers. Yeah, Mr. Femi. From your own perception, was this election free and fair?
The election was free.
Was it credible enough?
It will be difficult for me to tell you it is fair.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Femi Adebayo. He is Senior Program Manager with Impact Development Initiative. Thank you very much, Mr. Femi.
Right,
let's look forward to Ondo. I believe we would be in Ondo together, so we would get to do this in person. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Sam. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, that's the beat on Edo elections. Pardon me. 0805 5888 192. 0805 5888 192. You can also try 0805 5888 193. 0805 5888 193. Let's get 1, 2, or 3 thoughts, if possible, on the Edo elections that took place over the weekend. 0805 5888 192. 0805 192 or 0805 193. You can also get to Facebook at Adamimogo931FM to drop your thoughts there. If you go to the live stream, you would see we've put a graph courtesy of Kimpact's Development Initiative. We've been able to put a graph that states what the number of rejected voters looks like have looked like in the past 4 election cycles, same as the turnout, the percentage of the turnout there. All right, let's take 1, 2, 3 calls on Edo elections before I put up the next interview. 0805 588 192 0805 588 192. You could also try 0805 588 193. Without further ado, let's play you the concluding part of the conversation that I had with Honorable Ademori Ikuya, Federal Representative for Shomolu Federal Constituency. We started off the conversation on Saturday on reflections, and I told you that I would play the concluding part today, especially his thoughts on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's style of governance. Listen.
A year ago, not a year ago, just 3 months ago in January, some lawmakers said they had about 100 million, from the presidency for palliatives. They realized that some lawmakers distributed, I remember you did, some others did not. And people said, hey, those ones that did not, how are you different from the ones that did? Did you get the money? Did you spend it on your, selfish interest or needs? Why are you different? And now I'm asking you, I want you to be able to break it down. Did you get 100 million naira or more from the president to get palliatives and give your people? If you did, how about those who are yet to distribute anything till date? Is it that they didn't get, or you used the same level of the longer you stay, the better you
No, you see, the thing is this. It's very unfortunate that this actually, what you have just asked, almost caused an uproar.
It did.
In the National Assembly, even in the National Assembly, amongst us, because the new members fought the old members so severely because of this thing. Now, there was a promise by the presidency to release 100 million, worth of palliatives for us. And then it was said that the money was going to be given to the Federal Minister of Agric to use to buy foodstuffs for people. All right. Now, the Minister of Agric, advertised for contractors to bid, to get the jobs. So many contractors did. But because we have been there for some time, and we know some of these contractors, the way they operate, we know some contractors that are with their owners, that have money. Now, the system of awarding contracts under this present dispensation has changed from how it used to be. Now, before, the federal government will release money. Immediately, the contract is won by a contractor. They will release about 35% upfront so that the person can go and start the job. And after doing it, he will come back and say, okay, this is how far I've gone with the job, pay me more. And then it goes on and on like that. Under this present dispensation, no dime is given to contractors. You have to go and use your own money to go and do it. Because people said the complaint was that, contractors take money and then they disappear.
Okay.
Half of the jobs awarded are not done. So what this government now did was that, okay, we'll give you the award letter, but you have to go and find the money to start to do the job yourself. So some of us were lucky to find contractors who had money to do the job. And that was how people like us were able to. The number of us that did it in Lagos State were not up to 10 out of the 24 members. The rest did not do it because, of course, the contractor said no money. And if they go and borrow money from the bank,
they have to pay interest.
They have to start paying interest. At the end of the day, there is no gain on it.
So, as it stands now, have those contractors, have they been paid?
Of course. The ones that executed the jobs, I think.
So those who did not,
believe that they have been paid. I believe so, because I've not had any complaint from any contractor.
So those who
has done the job and it's not.
But how about the other lawmakers who did not do at the time and are yet to?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, some of them are still finding, ways of doing it. Right. And I hope they'll still do it.
All right. Let's get to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I know that you are a ranking member of the APC. You're very close to the president too. To what extent is Mr. President familiar with what is going on at the most basic level in the country?
I don't understand you. Is it not our president?
I'll give you this picture.
If he's not familiar, why is he putting in all those policies? Why is he putting in all those palliatives? Why is he putting in all those things that is impacting the life of the people? For example, the nail phone. Why did he put it in place? Because before he got there, he talked about it. We talked about, I know how much I spend every year to pay school fees to students that are admitted, to support them, students that are admitted into universities.
But now you don't have to do that anymore.
I might still have to do it. Because, you see, I don't understand our people. The propaganda out there is that they want to enslave you. They want to enslave you. Why should they be giving student loan? Why not give it to them free of charge, scholarship and all of that? And I say, look, even in wealthier countries, they still give student loans.
Maybe a lot of people talk about
president is not familiar. Why is he doing all of that?
Sustainability of the student loan policy.
Oh wait, from what I've seen, from the structure and from the process of accessing and all of that has been so transparent so far, and I hope that it goes on like that. Then I can vouch for the sustainability.
As Mr. President had those who have said they don't want palliatives, that they just want the price of food to be as cheap as possible for them, because the palliatives don't sustain them beyond the week.
That's exactly why they are giving out more and more fertilizers to farmers. I believe that with time, like I said to you before, I believe that with time, with this planting season is still on, people are still planting. I'm sure that the harvest time will come around November, December. I know that prices of foodstuff will come down on that time.
The first 4 years would lapse.
I'm assured about that.
The first 4 years will lapse in 2027. What do you think, or what hopes do you have for this administration? What can people pick and say, okay, at the end of 2027, we can expect this from this government, and we can be proud and count it as an achievement?
I can assure you that there will be massive industrialization. I was in the China trip.
Yeah.
And I know how many deals were signed. I was privy to one. The Green Line, the construction of the Green Line, I was privy to that because it's my committee and the Minister of Finance that facilitated that.
Nothing.
All right?
Yeah.
Now, I know that that Green Line is going to open up the whole of that and living now around that axis. So the Green Line is going all the way to the new deep sea port.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, a lot of, and it's not for passengers alone, it's for the movement of cargo from that place, from Tinkan Island, all the way, It's going to create massive, it's going to reduce massively, tremendously, the poverty level of our people. The GDP of the country, of the state is going to go up. That the rail gauge between Ibadan and Abuja is likely to be completed. It's likely to be completed. And when that is done, that Nigerians will be proud about. That Nigerians will be proud about. Sometimes when things of the country, as sometimes that's when the big light before.
We're also crying that it's too expensive. Especially for business.
Of crude oil. It's $15.
$1,500.
So inflation to fill is SUV.
There's nothing that is perfect in this life. If you have the opportunity to sit with Mr. President again, what's the
a command farmers to reduce their wastages, their losses. There must be a way of ensuring that the government can take away from them the produce that they cannot immediately find market for. They keep it for them and then sell at a later date. Pay them off. Let them have security. Whatever they produce, they are sure that there is a ready market for it. Then they are encouraged to produce more. All right?
Yeah.
That I will tell him. Number two, I will tell him to consider establishing price control board. Because our people are becoming so wickedly exploitative. I'll tell him to do that. He has to consider establishing price control board.
Just quickly, you've done courier money, which I like to think is an offshoot of trader money and the likes that we've seen previously. How much have you put into that project? Is it a personal project for you, or is it a constituency project?
It's my personal project.
A personal project.
It's my personal
so you're not tracking if the people are using the monies for what they should.
You see, the thing is this: I have come to realize even before President Buhari started his trader money, I started doing it. I started doing it because I've gone through that life before, and I know that what our people need is not that much. They're not. They just want roof over their head. They want to be able to feed themselves and their families. They want to be secured in their environment. They want good education for their children and all of that. And they are ready to pay for it. Ready to pay for it in a sense that they are ready to give their child little money to take transport to school and come back. The education is free anyway. Now, how do we support this class of people? Where I come from, the lower cadre of life? How do we support them?